Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I am your host, Alan Moore, and I'm excited to have XYPN member Shawn Tydlaska, founder of Ballast Point Financial Planning, just outside of San Francisco, on the show today. We had Shawn on the show back in episode 103 to talk about his first year in business, and he volunteered to come back on to talk about life after the end of year 3 in his business. We talked about how the business has changed since we last spoke, such as the evolving vision for the business, how his service model and fee structure have changed, and what he's learned about himself, including the fact that he really enjoys building and growing the business. Shawn is growing quickly, adding 1 to 2 clients a week right now, and has 13 clients in the onboarding process. He's also hiring, opening a new office, just bought a house, and had a baby. So he's a busy guy, but he's finding ways to balance it all. It was awesome to catch up with him on how everything's going, and I think it'll be a great check-in for listeners on how the business progresses over time. The big takeaway I hope you get is that everything changes. Decisions that you make today aren't forever, and honestly, there are no right answers. It's just about finding what works for you and building the business that supports the life you're looking to build. XYPN Live is a financial planning conference unlike any other in the industry. At XYPN Live, you'll learn real strategies for building your firm, whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned firm owner. Or maybe you just want to earn some CE credits, connect with other advisors, or be part of the real financial planning movement. XYPN Live offers all of that and so much more. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/XYPN Live Radio to get your pass today. You can find any of the additional resources that we mentioned during the episode at xyplanningnetwork.com/214. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN Radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Shawn.
Hey, Shawn, welcome back to the show, man. Thanks so much for coming back on.
Hey, Alan. Thanks for having me.
I can't believe it has been 2 years. So for listeners, we have Shawn Tydlaska on today. And if you want to know Shawn's story, go back to episode 103, xyplanningnetwork.com/103. And you can hear all about Shawn's first 12 months in business. We recorded that right after you had hit your 1-year anniversary. And here we are 2 years later, you're at your 3-year. And nothing has changed. It's remarkable, right?
Yeah. So the same old story.
Right. So I'm excited to have you back on and to be able to explore for advisors that are in that first year. It's awesome to be able to hear that the first year ends at some point. But when we had that last episode, there's a lot of questions around, is this going to work? What's the right fee structure, the right service model? Because pull back up my notes, you had worked with a ton of clients in that first year, but you were still sort of feeling out what's going to work, what's the business model and all of that. And obviously you haven't necessarily figured all of it out yet, but you've learned a lot and probably have even more questions now, which I'm excited to explore. So can you just give listeners a quick overview of just where the business is today, either from a revenue or client standpoint, sort of how it compares to that first year when we recorded?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I reached out to you like at my 3-year anniversary just to kind of give the listeners an idea of kind of what I've been up to. And hopefully, it doesn't come off as bragging or being boastful, but hopefully to demonstrate to others what they're capable of themselves if they want to pursue a similar route. Because it has taken a ton of hard work and energy. And, I've worked really hard to try and prove that this is a viable model to serve young professionals. So hopefully I'll provide some tips to help people on their journey as well. Yeah, just kind of digging in or getting everyone up to speed. Currently, we have 76 families that we work with on a retainer basis. We've worked with 124 families since we launched. I charge an upfront fee. It's about $1,400 how it works out, and clients pay that in 2 installments. My average ongoing fee is about $280 a month. I have rolled out taxes last year, and we did about 16 returns in-house, which was about $6,000 of revenue. Forward-looking revenue, even if I don't bring on another client, is about $260,000. I'm big on stats, so I wrote down a lot of these KPIs to prepare. So my retention rate has been increasing, and I'd kind of be curious to see how this is across the network for retainer models like mine. But it's been increasing. My first year it was like 59%, because I was taking on kind of anybody that would work with me, and there was just maybe some not good long-term fits. So it's 59%. Now it's up to more like 84%. And I think between 80 to 90% is probably where it'll kind of flatten out. I do kind of track my EBOC, the earnings before owner's compensation. It's about 63% right now. And my net profit margin is about 26%. So I started paying myself a salary, like the equivalent of about $80,000 starting in January. I switched over to S Corp. And so that's where I kind of stand right now.
Well, first off, congratulations. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment to survive the first year, but especially the first 3 years. I mean, the percentage of business owners that ultimately don't make it 5 years when you look at small businesses in general is really low. And so you've really hit I'll say you're past the point of this might not work. It may not be the right business or you may make some decisions that are different and that sort of thing, but you're no longer in the but someone could come along and offer you more money to be a salaried advisor. I think you're past that. And I think that deserves congratulations, because that's a huge milestone that I don't know that we all take a second to actually realize of oh, I actually made it. I'm here and now I can sort of do what I want to do, which is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And it's evolved over time. When I first launched my business, I was like, okay, I want to have 40 to 50 clients. That'll take up maybe 60% of my time. And then in the remaining time, I want to do things that are more scalable, like teaching or speaking engagements or webinars. But now it's more evolved to, I do want to build a bigger firm. And we'll get into this a little bit later, I'm sure, but kind of building out best-in-class regional firms. The mission of my firm is to positively impact the lives of 1 million young professionals. And so, that's kind of my long-term vision. So I'm kind of using that as my true north.
Yeah, let's talk about how, your vision for the firm has changed. So you said when you first started out, it was going to be, 40 to 50 clients. It sounds like it was really how much revenue do I need in order to not have to worry about money and really spend my time doing the things I enjoy doing, which is making a bigger impact. But that's evolved. So talk to me a little bit more about how that has happened for you and how you've been able to recognize sort of that evolution.
Yeah, I got to that number of clients that I was shooting for, maybe only after a year and a half. And I've kind of just realized that I like building the business side of things and mentoring Liz. Liz Plott is on my team. She's a certified financial planner. When she started as a client service associate, and she was studying for the exam. And now she's growing into a lead planner. And I've loved seeing her grow as a planner. And then when I rolled out the tax portion of my firm, it was cool to think about, okay, what's going to be our pricing schedule? And, I've kind of just found that I like building the business more so than doing the actual client service work and presenting in client meetings. I found that I don't get quite as much satisfaction out of helping someone achieve their goals versus kind of building the business and, kind of tracking the number of lives that I've touched. Some of the other kind of fun KPIs that I track is, I like tracking how much debt I've helped people pay off. In the aggregate, we've helped people pay off $2.3 million of debt. And if you think about the compounding factor that has over their lives of how much cash flow you free up and the amount they're able to save now, it's just amazing. Help people do a bunch of backdoor Roths. So we've done over $350,000 of backdoor Roths for our clients. And some of the more satisfying stuff is we've helped 18 people buy their home. A lot of those are first-time home buyers. And even here in the Bay Area, it's really tough, a really tough market. So even here, we've been able to help them buy. And then, kind of being in the Bay Area, we've helped 5 clients buy Teslas. The little fun little, you've arrived when I don't know, when you can buy a Tesla, I guess here.
I love that. Yeah, and it's so true. It is a bit of a status symbol, but that's a cool one that I've seen way more expensive status symbols. So
yeah. And then some of the other things we do is I keep track of how many clients we're onboarding. And right now we're onboarding 13 clients. And I kind of have a 3-meeting onboarding process that I walk my clients through. And so we're getting 13 people on. And then I keep track of how many people I've helped improve their lives through personal financial planning. And it's up to 16,000 now. So that counts leads, clients, some of the, podcast listeners from this podcast, I count that because they are hopefully able to spread some of my, some of the tips I give to their clients downstream. I posted something on Kitsis's blog post. So those sorts of things. If I do a seminar, I count those attendees. So yeah.
Is that the lives touched metric that you were talking about earlier, where you said you want to touch 1 million lives?
Yeah, I'm not sure what form it'll come in ultimately. Like I've thought about, writing a book or doing boot camps, but yeah, I track that. It's on my about page on my website, and you can kind of see the graph and chart over time.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, was how are you tracking the lives touch? Because I remember Andre Novus, sorry if I butchered your last name, Andre, out of Brazil. He keynoted our conference in, I guess it was Dallas, but one of the things that they tracked was dreams under management, because they don't do assets under management, but he said that they track the number of dreams that they help manage for their clients, and then what of those dreams they have actually been able to achieve. And I just loved that framing, saying that you're looking at with this, how much debt are they paying off, and what are the big, how much money have I saved them in taxes? And it's just such a cool way to really see the impact of what you do, because yes, it's, 50, 75, 100 lives that are clients, but the impact is so much broader than that. And so it's a really cool thing to be tracking. I am curious, why 1 million? Where did that number come from in terms of, it could have been 100,000, it could have been 10 million. Was there a reason that you settled on 1 million as the goal?
So when I was applying to business school, this is back in 2013. I was working for a firm, and we were helping maybe 250 families, and they'd been in business for 25 years. And I was like, I just want to make a bigger impact, in the industry and just on people's lives. And I was thinking there's 300 million Americans. If I could touch the lives of 1 million people, I think that would be pretty cool. That's honestly where the number came from. I think that's similar to the mission at XYPN, right? Maybe you can fill me on. Yeah, where did you guys come up with that number of 1 million? Yeah, maybe tell me about the mission for XYPN and where that number came from.
Yeah, you just use it. No, we really looked at how many advisors, we use sort of the 100 to 1. So for every advisor that's a member, they can help approximately 100 clients, some less, some more, just depending on the firm structure. But we sort of look at that as our impact on the world is for every advisor we help, we're helping facilitate real financial planning being brought to, 100 consumers. And so when we looked at, our BHAG, what if in 20 to 30 years we could have 10,000 advisors, and then we'd be able to bring real financial planning to 1 million consumers. And so I did make the mistake when we rolled that out at our conference last year. People thought that was like the 3-year plan. And we're like, no, that's like the 30-year plan. Like our 10-year vision, which we're now 6 months into our sort of 10-year plan, but our 10-year vision is 5,000 advisors helping 500,000 consumers. And, to your point, it really was just like, what if we could help 1 million people? I don't know why that number is so sexy, but it is, where it's just like, what if we can just help and bring real financial planning to 1 million people that have been told they couldn't access financial planning, that were told that, there's no way to profitably serve these clients. So it's just a cool, in the end, I think we all just want to leave this world having made a difference. And if that's the difference that we can make, then I think we'll all be happy. So it sounds similar to how you've sort of been formulating your mission.
Yeah. And I recently re-listened to the Kidsist podcast with Brent Brodesky from Savant, and his firm, their mission is to build 1 million ideal futures. And I kind of like that, the phrasing that he uses there, but yeah, he also has like the 1 million goal out there.
All right. Well, we're going for 10 million, because if you help 1 million and some other people help 1 million, then we can be the backbone of 10 million. No. And again, I think it's just so important to know where you're headed, which we're going to talk about here in a bit, in terms of sort of where the business is at and where you want it to go. One thing though, that I do want to touch on, because I can't let it go, was, when we did our first episode, we gave it the best clickbait article name of all time, which was from 0 to 38 clients in 12 months, which was sort of clickbait, but it was true. You've just been growing at an exponential pace. I mean, to be onboarding 13 clients right now, that is the pace at which some RIAs grow in an entire year, is trying to bring on 13 clients in 1 year. So just overall, what marketing channels are you focused on, and what's converting? Because last time we talked, you had gotten quite a few clients from XYPlanningNetwork.com, but also Yelp was really big for you. I'm sure client referrals is now playing in it. Like, where are the clients coming from to keep this pace up?
Yeah. So over the last 12 months, I've gotten 38 clients, and 47% of those came from Yelp. So a lot of people, initially just did a Yelp search for a local financial planner here. 19% are from family and friends, just people from my natural market. 13% from client referrals. So not really that high. I probably could do a better job of asking for some referrals there. NAPFA is about 13%. and XYPN is only 5%. So only probably about 2 clients in the last year.
Oh, we fell off right. But hey, 2 clients, I guess that helps pay the
Well,
fee.
when I joined, it was only, there's 200 advisors in the network, and now there's 900, 1,000. So, and then I only got
right. It does make it a little different.
I only got like one from like a center of influence, like another professional over the last 12 months. So it's really been a lot of Yelp, and then the friends and family and client referrals.
Let's call it Yelp and other. And I'm just so fascinated by Yelp because like the only way I use Yelp is when I go to Google, I type in a question and Yelp is in one of the top 3 searches. So therefore I click it. Like in San Francisco, are people just like using Yelp search engine, or are they using Google and Yelp's just ranking really high there?
I think it's a little bit of both. So, I just checked yesterday. I Googled financial planner Burlingame, and then Yelp is one of the top search, top results right there. And then when you click on that, I'm one of the top people in Burlingame. When I started off, I only had 2 Yelp reviews my first year, but I got 6 clients from that. I think the other things that, I did well when I set up my firm was, I got listed on XYPN. I would recommend Fee Only Network to other people, not necessarily for referrals. Like you notice I didn't have any referrals from Fee Only Network, but they really help you optimize the keywords that you're trying to search for. Again, like financial planner Burlingame. I think there's a company called Burlingame Wealth Advisors, and they don't even show up, and which is crazy. So Fee Only Network, the CFP website, NAPFA, and make sure that your messaging is consistent across all those different platforms. And when people are searching for Yelp, there's certain fields you want to fill in, like when you put in your about or description. If you want to show up in those results, you got to put those words in your description, like young professionals, San Francisco, Bay Area, San Mateo, kind of the local areas. You can just copy kind of what I do on Yelp and roll it out.
So are you doing anything active with Yelp beyond like you optimized your profile, but Yelp isn't a place for content or anything like that. So are you, that was sort of a set it and forget it type marketing, or are you paying Yelp for ads?
No, I'm not paying them. And that's a big drawback, I think, initially, is like when you do set up your profile, they have a really aggressive sales team. And you just kind of got to like tell them, like, please take me off your list. I don't want to do any advertising. Over time, you have to have a social media policy and make sure that you're following it. I know that some advisors got into some trouble by using Yelp and requesting testimonials. So the kind of the policy that I have is if I'm going to ask one client, I ask everyone. So, I kind of send out a state of the company email at the beginning of the year and saying like, this is where I'm at. If you want to support me, we'd love your feedback, or we'd love you to write a Yelp review. And so just over the years, I've accrued 19 reviews, and they're all like real reviews. I think where some advisors got into trouble before is they hired a marketing firm to reach out to their clients proactively to request Yelp reviews. And that just seems kind of shady kind of to me. And then I added some photos, and actually it's funny, like Liz, she's the image that shows up on my Yelp page as like the key image for my firm. So I don't know if I can update that, but that's just kind of funny.
Yeah, they which one they grab would, sort of where folks are searching and hitting. Well, it's good to know. Like I said, there are, cultural differences with San Francisco and everywhere else. I guess probably New York is similar. But, there's going to be differences in how people are searching for an advisor and where they're going. And Yelp will work for you. It won't work for everybody, but it will work for a lot more people than are leveraging it. Let's just say that. So don't be afraid to just go set up and optimize a profile.
Some other things that I think worked well for me, when you develop your website, think about what its purpose should be. Some of this stuff is pretty basic, but I see advisors make this mistake all the time of like, okay, am I trying to collect email addresses on my website? Am I trying to, have a lead magnet? For me, the whole sole purpose of my website is to get people to set up a prospect meeting. So create as little friction as possible, meaning like when you have have Calendly, or I use Schedule Once, be available when your prospects are available. So initially, my first year, I was meeting people 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. I remember there was 3 weekends where I met 3 prospects on Sundays, like 3 prospects a day on Sundays. And it's exhausting, but like, you got to be available when your prospects are. And then kind of going back to your website, think about like kind of what you want to drive people to do. I had like a blog initially. I ended up taking that down. I'm not even asking for email addresses. And when I say like put as little friction as possible, make it really easy for someone to set up a phone call or a meeting with you. Only request their name and email address, or their name and their phone number. And then you can follow up with a survey. Like once they do that, once they set up the meeting, you can just say, hey, to make our meeting most efficient, please fill out this info gathering survey. And then you can ask their income, net worth. If you request all that stuff up front before they even schedule a meeting, I think it would scare people off. Yeah. So those are just some kind of tips that hopefully will help people as they're starting out with their firms.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I mean, I feel like so many times when you're designing a website and writing the content, we think about us as the advisor and what we want people to know about us. And in reality, people don't come to our website to learn about us. They actually come to learn about themselves. And so talking about them and what they're experiencing and challenges they're having, to let them know that we understand where they're at. That's something that, at XY, we can say like, oh, we provide compliance and technology. And people are like, oh, that's great. I don't really care. What they want to know is like, we've actually helped register. We're at like 500 RAs now. So we've gone through the RA registration process 500 times. Most advisors will only go through it once. So here's where you are. You don't know what the RA registration process is and how to write an ADV and all that. And you can go learn it for yourself, or you can have us do it. And we've done it 500 times like that. Just tweaking it to be, customer centric around, ultimately, or prospect centric around who are they, what are they looking for? And like you said, just make it easy for them to book a freaking meeting. I hate these forms where it's like submit a contact form with 12 different fields. And then, you'll email them back or call them back to schedule a meeting. Like no one is going to submit that form. Just put a schedule once or a Calendly link on your website. Make it easy.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I do think some of it is being here near a major city, that I've gotten a lot of like qualified young professionals that make good incomes. So part of me wants to chalk it up to like, maybe I'm just being lucky with or maybe I got lucky. I think part of it is, I'm fortunate to be where I am. But then on the other side, if there's more opportunity out there, there's going to be more competition. Like there's so many advisors here. I think there's probably like 10 XYPN advisors. Anna Serganina, she's right across the hall from me, and she has one of the biggest fee-only hourly RIAs in the country, so there's definitely like a lot of other advisors out there. So, I can't just chalk it up to that. I think it's also that I'm doing really good work and kind of speaking to my clients and the prospects, like on my website, about like kind of, this is who I work with. This is, kind of just being real with them on your website. Like I have a frequently asked questions page where I just kind of speak from the heart.
Yeah. Don't ever use the excuse of, oh, well, Shawn's in a big city, or, oh, Shawn has it's like, no. Every zip code has a different advantage and a different disadvantage. And, like I said, it's actually kind of it's an interesting piece that we actually see the more fee-only advisors that are in a city and in sort of the higher concentration actually benefits each other. That if you're the only one in the state of Montana, which I was at one point, people are like, what is a fee-only planner again? But if there's 100 of you in a town, the word gets out, the message gets out. We see a lot of cross referrals between those advisors. The competition of having other fee-only fiduciary advisors in your area is that competition is not a bad thing, that it can actually really help. So Yelp was number one. We said other friends and family, that being another big referral source from you. What are you doing to cultivate that referral? Like, are you asking for referrals? Are you emailing from time to time asking for them? Or are you just, people are just sending you clients? Like, I don't think I ever had a family or friend, send me anybody. So I'm just curious how you're asking, if at all.
I'm not really asking, to be honest. I'm not really asking. I think part of that number, about a year ago, I rolled out a personal finance boot camp. My idea was I wanted to do a live boot camp for up to 20 people, and then turn a lot of that content into an online course that people could go through on their own, and kind of have like a lower tiered financial planning offering that's kind of evergreen and just kind of lives on my website. So I rolled out this boot camp. And I just did like a personal finance tip of the day for like 15 days. And then I said, if you want to learn more, sign up for the boot camp. And I think like 4 or 5, like just personal friends from like my business school or my wife's business school, like had signed up through there, or even from undergrad. I'm just kind of, I don't proactively reach out to people. And then from there, like actually 2 people ended up becoming ongoing clients. They decided to sign up to be ongoing retainer clients.
Very cool. So switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about your service model and how this has evolved over, let's say the last 2 years since you've been on the podcast? Because you mentioned tax earlier, which I want to talk about. Are you managing investments in-house?
So I'm on TD's platform, and mostly my client assets are at Betterment. I have about $11.5 million at Betterment, and I don't charge any fees on top of the Betterment platform fee. So most of what's at Betterment is Roth IRAs and taxable accounts. Everything else I shuttle to the client's 401k, mostly, unless it's like a really bad 401k. And then TD is mostly for solo 401ks.
So you're essentially you're not charging an AUM based fee. They're just paying whatever the platform fee is. And then, so then you're including some of the investment related recommendations and that sort of thing as part of that monthly fee that you mentioned earlier. That's, what'd you say, like $270 on average a month?
Yeah. So, I mean, my fee schedule has evolved, multiple times throughout my 3 years, and it's continuing to evolve. Kind of the one that that resonates with me and that I'm really comfortable selling, and that I feel like it's a slam dunk for a lot of prospects is I'll share my services and fees. It's on my website, and then also we put it in the show notes. Like it's a little bit different right now because I just rolled out a new kind of model, but historically it's been if you're single, it's $500 up front. If you're just out of college, if you're a few years into your career, it's $1,000 up front. If you're a couple, it's $2,000 up front. And I split that up into 2 installments. So the first one's due as like a deposit when they sign up. The second one is due after their second client meeting. And then I charge a monthly fee, and it ranges between $200 and $500. Typically that's the range. $200 is for, again, that young professional just out of college. And that's kind of the bare minimum price that I feel like you could charge and to be doing comprehensive financial planning with the level of service that I provide. And then for a while, I had a complexity factor on it where if they were a small business owner, that was an extra $50 per month. If they had student loans, that was an extra $50 a month. If they had concentrated stock, that was an extra $50 a month. So that's kind of where it kind of ends up with like this average $280 a month fee. And I just changed it to be flat fee based. So right now, if you were to become a client, it's $5,000 if you're single and $7,500 if you're a couple. And that'll include all the financial planning. We'll do a tax projection for you, and we'll prepare your tax return and your investments. So that's kind of what's on the website right now. And then for people that are just kind of starting out, it's not on my website, but it's on my ADV. It's called the Wealth Builder Package. And that fee is $1,000 up front and then $200 a month. And then Liz is going to be their primary relationship person. And then I'm kind of shadowing her at this point, but she's going to be starting to run these meetings on her own. And so she's been like a lot of the people that have signed up lately have been kind of on this Wealth Builder Package where she's got about 15 clients where she's the lead. I hope that all makes sense for all these different fee schedules that I've gone through and iterations over the years.
Yeah. What made you decide to go flat fee of the $5,000 and $7,500 versus the, sort of the add-ons? Were you just finding those add-ons were just sort of annoying to have to communicate about, or just trying to raise the fees and just this seemed like the natural way of sort of evening it out for everybody?
So, there's kind of this, you hear this so much at the conference. It's like, okay, if I'm bringing on 2 or 3 clients a month, I need to raise my fees, right? I need to instead of having 2 clients that pay $2,500 a year, what if you just had one client that pays $5,000 a year, or 20? If I have a wealth builder, or if I have one client's paying $7,500, that's like 3 wealth builder clients. But Liz and I, we were talking just last week, and we kind of did a performance review, a review, and she's like, I'd rather have 10 clients that are wealth builder clients that we love working with, that are kind of like really receptive to our advice, versus like some of these clients that are like there's one client that is on that $7,500 package, and he is just it's just like a different needs, and like just really tough to work with, to be honest. And I don't really enjoy working with that type of a person. So it's kind of like you get all these like nudges, and you kind of get pushed from a lot of people. Like at the conference, you hear all the time people saying, "Oh, you need to raise your fees. You need to raise your fees." So I've almost thought about kind of ratcheting back or pulling back from this flat fee model to kind of doing that more like, okay, upfront, and then you have your monthly fee, and then if you want us to do your taxes, that'll be a separate fee. I think the main idea with kind of doing this all in one fee was just to kind of bundle the services and then kind of have a stickier relationship. That was kind of the genesis for offering tax planning, to be honest. like, we're probably going to talk about like wins and losses or highs and lows. Like one of the challenging parts I had was around, year 2, 5 people left within just 2 months. And I just felt like I was on the hamster wheel, like kind of just getting new clients and then they're leaving. And I wanted to offer tax planning and do it in-house. So that way, just to kind of make the client relationship more stickier and then to add additional value to my clients. So that was the kind of impetus for the taxes.
Yeah, I definitely want to dig into the taxes. I think it's a good point that you make that, we spent a long time that we just talked about $100 to $200 a month and that was sort of a base subscription fee. And where that number came from was 1% to 2% of income. And so we were looking at sort of what's a typical client that one of our advisors is looking to serve, what's 1% to 2% of their income. That seems to, that from what we've seen is a really good sort of starting point in terms of what your fee could be and what they're willing to pay. Michael's research has actually shown 2% to 2.5% of income is actually a little closer to the actual. And what we saw was that just historically we have seen advisors undercharging. And so then the sort of the pendulum swings and everyone's raising their fees because they realize they started out at $50 a month or $100 a month. They should have been at $200 or $300 a month. But the conversation ends up being about fees. And I'm absolutely with you that I think the conversation needs to be about who do you want to serve? Because you can make your base fee $100,000 a year. I mean, you can just make it $100,000 and, people will show up and pay that. The question is, what type of client do you want to work with? And the fee structure should be about attracting and retaining the clients that you ultimately want to serve, not about making more money per client, because that's not what it's about. And so, there is sort of this ebb and flow to that and the balancing act that you need to be sure you're working with clients that can pay you enough that you can profitably run your business with the service model. So there are a few different levers that you get to pull. But I hope what people can take away from this is it's not just about raise your fees. It's who's your ideal client and charge them appropriately. Don't undercharge just because you feel like you lack the confidence or the skill set to serve them. Charge them appropriately, but you don't have to keep going up market. There are, you really can serve whatever the client base is that you want to serve, and you can do that.
Yeah, I think I was trying to get to like an average revenue per client of about $4,000 per year. So that's another reason I was kind of trying to go up market.
Have you done an analysis of sort of your like profitability numbers and like how much you need to be making per client to be profitable and to be able to scale and grow the way that you want to?
Yeah. So I mentioned that like Brent Brodesky podcast, and I really liked his idea of 10xing in 10 years. And then to do that, you have to double every 3 years. And that's just how, the rule of 72, which is one of my favorite math shortcuts. And so like, if I kind of stick with that upfront and ongoing fee, on average, my clients pay, $1,500, for that upfront fee. And then, with that $3,300 for the ongoing. So all in, they're at like $4,800 the first year. And there is more heavy lifting that first year. And then it drops maybe to $3,300. And if I go from 75 to 150 clients, over 3 years, then my revenue goes from $260,000 to $520,000. And I can definitely like hire additional staff to kind of help service them and still remain profitable.
Fair enough. And like I said, you're looking to scale. And so again, there's a two-edged sword there in terms of, do you raise, you need the profitability and the cash flow to be able to scale faster, but you also, you want to be able to work with the clients that you want to work with. So, I hope what people take away from this is there's no right answer. And that's something people are always looking for, the right answer. And there just isn't one. There's only your answer, and who's the client that you want to serve. What's the service model that you feel like they need, and what will they pay for because they're seeing enough value from your services to pay the fee, and they need to be paying you enough that you can profitably build your business the way that you want. And all of those need to work together in order to sort of formulate what is the right fee structure, the right fee level, and all of those decisions that many times advisors just want to start with. Okay, I want to charge $100 a month. And it's like, don't start there. Start with a client, build the fee structure off that client base.
Yeah, no, I've been guilty of that myself, of telling people to raise their fees. And that's good advice to keep in mind about like, who's your ideal client.
And it's okay. Honestly, they may actually need to raise their fees. Most likely so. I don't see very many people going down with their fees, but I'm glad that you've been able to assess that and be able to find your sweet spot, which sort of leads into, you started doing taxes and we're incorporating that into your practice. So one, what made you decide to start offering tax preparation to your clients? And then two, how did you structure that, whether it be in-house CPA or outsourced, or are you doing all the work? So how is that working for you?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to that, like where I was feeling like I was on a hamster wheel and like I had all these people leave, and I try to like, make it seem like, okay, they're just graduating, right? And they're able to kind of automate things as much as we can, and they're going to just save my fee and save it for a down payment. But it still hurts. It still hurts when they leave. And I think my self-consciousness is like, is this a viable business model? Are they just not seeing the value in what we're doing? So my way to counteract that was to add additional services where it would be just a stickier relationship. Because me personally, I've had a tough time finding a good CPA. I don't want to leave my CPA. Like once I find a good one, I work with John McCarthy, and he's been doing a good job for my taxes. And he started doing taxes for my clients. And it's been fine, but I'm sure other advisors that use him would know, and he'd agree to this too, that he's grown really, really fast and has had some growing pains. And we've had to file a lot of extensions for my clients. And I've even volunteered some clients that I've had good relationships with to say like, hey, just to help John out, let's schedule let's extend your tax return. But also just to have a more seamless experience for my clients, to do it in-house, like, and to put it at the top of their priority list. And I also didn't I guess it's all in how you position it, but I was saying we're going to partner with John McCarthy. If you're going to do a tax projection, he charges $200 or $300 or whatever it is. I'd rather do that in-house and have, not have an ad hoc fee for that. And then kind of just one example was we were doing some stock planning, and the window was closing for when they could exercise their stock. And this was a client that worked at Tesla, and their stock is, so wild. Fortunately, during the window, the stock price had appreciated. It was kind of unsettling to not have control over that process and kind of be waiting to get the projection back. And then just, have more control over the process. And I do feel like there's so much value in being a forward-looking tax advisor, especially here in the Bay Area with so many stock options and, small business income and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's definitely a big value add that I want to focus on in my practice. I did actually enroll to become.
So last year you outsourced it.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, yeah. What's the plan moving forward with who's doing the taxes?
So continuing the progression, I guess, I initially was using John McCarthy. Then I hired, then I actually enrolled in a enrolled agent class at the local community college. And I got a couple months in, and I'm like, man, I don't need another designation. I do like the tax planning, but I don't need to be the one doing the return. So I went for a couple of sessions, and then I decided to hire a tax person, and I wanted to build out Ballast Point Tax in-house. And so I used Simply Paraplanner to post a job, and we were looking for someone who was either a CPA or an enrolled agent that had a couple of years of taxes under their belt. And we hired Jeff Reed is his name, and we hired him in November of last year. So we started doing some projections before the end of the year, and then we rolled out tax prep to our clients. And his background is he works full time for the Food and Drug Administration in DC. His dad was a tax preparer for 35 years, so he's kind of gotten some exposure through that, and he's been interested in personal financial planning. And so it was a natural, okay, let's have you do taxes for our clients this season, see how things go. He had a tax practice. Jeff had his own tax practice of about 30 clients for 3 years. He's been doing it. So he did about 33 returns of his own last year. He did about 15 for Ballast Point. And then the goal was to bring him on full time sometime here in the summer and the fall. But ultimately that didn't work out. And so we actually opened up a new job posting for a new tax specialist to join us. And kind of, I think I've had a few conversations with Jeff about why it hasn't worked out. And I think it comes down to the kind of the timing and the kind of work he wanted to do. I want to be a financial planning firm that does tax planning. I don't want to be a tax firm that does financial planning. I don't want to have the pressure around April 15th to get all hundreds of returns filed. So that kind of stuck out to him. He wanted to do more tax work. Between now and the end of the year, there's going to be a lot more financial planning work. And then also some things happened at the FDA where his job satisfaction increased there. Some people left, he had some better opportunities there. So it just wasn't the right time for him to leave the FDA. So it's kind of, those were two of the main reasons. It wasn't really about the making a salary adjustment or anything like that. It was more so the kind of the timing and the work he wanted to do. And kind of reflecting back, I'm really glad that we did this trial together. And honestly, it makes me more confident to roll it out to hire the next person.
So if you are a CPA or an EA looking for a job in San Francisco or virtual potentially, contact Shawn. That's like you said, though, you got a chance to do it in-house. You can always go back and outsource it. That is what it is. It's more about, seeing, is that a service that you want to provide? Because in the end, like, you can't literally do nothing. As a business, it will always take resources to do something that has a 10-week window. So if you're willing to take that on and you're happy with it, then that's awesome, because then you can provide even more value to your clients.
And yeah, to answer your question about like kind of how the economics worked. So he had his own practice. And also that was another challenge. I wasn't quite sure how we were going to like fold that into my firm. Was I going to buy him out or give him equity? And we just never kind of wrapped our heads around that. And then, so when he would do returns for my clients, I kind of followed a similar model to what John McCarthy did, where we had like 289 was the base return. And then if you had self-employment income or rental property or, something like that, it was an extra $125 per item. And so Jeff, I just subcontracted to him. So on my ADV, it said something like Shawn partners with Reedman Tax. And I would introduce the client to Jeff. And, I think it was a great learning experience for Jeff too, because he learned so much about, stock planning, and we built out workflows together. And he switched tax software. Now he's using Intuit ProConnect. And so how we shared revenue was he would keep 2/3 of the revenue, and then I would keep 1/3, because there was a lot of oversight that I was doing and kind of making the introduction. And there's also a lot of business risk. Like if he didn't do a good job, we might lose a client. And for the most part, it went pretty well. There was one client that just, we made a couple mistakes and we ended up refunding him his tax prep fees. But for the most part, it was a pretty smooth process. And, I got to say it's really scary, but like I feel like that's when you have the biggest leaps in your firm, is when you kind of move forward.
Yeah, and this, and many of our members were, and maybe some listeners were there at the conference last year when we announced we were moving in this direction as well, of offering the white label tax preparation to our members, because we see this across our member base with lots of advisors that are saying, hey, I want to be able to offer tax preparation. I don't want to do 100% of the work. But it's not, it is about developing an even deeper understanding of the client situation, because, as many advisors, or I would say as pretty much all advisors know, the best way to understand a client's financial situation is review their taxes, and looking at both, doing the turn as well as looking at projections and where are people going, and making those recommendations and developing that having that expertise in-house. Without, some firms like yours are happy to grow and have a tax business in-house. Others do not want that. And both of those answers are totally fine. It's just, I always encourage advisors, just stay focused on building the business that's going to work for you. So I'm excited to see how you incorporate that and grow, because that's, there are a lot of really successful firms that are doing that with tax preparation built in-house. And I think it just increases the stickiness level of clients. So
yeah, and you can definitely white label it.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads into the next question, which is really around, what is the business that you want to build, and how has that evolved? That we talked about that when you started out, you thought it would be 40 to 50 clients, and now that has obviously changed, like enjoying running the business. So I guess, what are you thinking about in terms of how you're going to grow and scale this thing? You mentioned earlier, maybe some regional firms. Tell me more about that and sort of what the vision is for your firm going forward.
It evolves as you kind of mature as a business. And I've done like a lot of reflecting. I felt like I was at this big pivotal moment. Like I'm at 3 years. I've got this I kind of want to talk about like the client service calendar and onboarding process that I have. Like I've got this rinse and repeat kind of like everyone kind of goes through the same thing. And I just need to bring in more advisors and we can serve more clients and, help make the profession a profession. So lately I've been thinking, meaning like last 6 months, last 12 months, that I wanted to build like a regional firm, like to have a presence national, or not a regional, a national firm, and like build a true enterprise, like a Rick Edelman or, something like Focus Financial or United Capital, something like that. But then after listening to Brent's podcast, it made me really think like, maybe I think there is something to be said for building local regional firms. He said that 50% of the leads go to the top 3 firms in that area. So I'm focused. So for the next night, I use like a 1-page business plan. I think I got a template from Kitsis, kind of use some Tracy Beckus stuff, some stuff from Traction to kind of come up with this like 10-year vision, a 3-year vision, a 12-month vision, what are we going to do with the 12 months to support the 3 years, and then the 90-day rocks. So really what I'm focused on for the next 90 days is rolling out the Maryland office, getting an address, adding that to our ADV, trying to see if this local, building out like a Yelp page, saying if like kind of developing a local presence, we can repeat that in Maryland. So building out a best in class, regional firm, and maybe having 10 to 15, they call them like beachheads, across the country one day. So over the next 90 days, Liz and I are going to roll out that office. And then also we're going to hire a tax specialist that will do tax returns. And, essentially that'll be a separate business line. We need someone that'll, they'll have to create their tax ID so that we can file taxes for our clients on their behalf. So it's like, that's two major big initiatives for the next 90 days. And that's what I'm kind of focused on. But longer term, I can kind of get into that, what I'm kind of thinking of longer term, if you want me, or if you want me to stop there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just sort of hear how that's formulating in your head.
Yeah. So I'm always thinking about what's next for my firm and where I want to go. So some ideas that have been rattling around, I think XYPN does a really good job of helping you get launched, through the support through your first year. Also, like there's some gaps of like, how do you actually do financial planning for young professionals? Like, what are some templates and, workflows and things like that? I know you guys are working on that, and I volunteered to kind of help create that content with you guys. But I was thinking about maybe doing a coaching program and doing like working with 5 young advisors or newer advisors, and kind of, just doing like a 6-month training program. I know Sophia Berra did that in the past. That's one idea. Another idea I had is doing this, I call it a financial planning collective. I think there's an issue or a problem with people that are in my stage where we don't really have a fully built out succession plan. We don't really have like a great business continuity plan. So my idea is, what if 4 or 5 of us got together? We all set up buy-sell agreements on each other's practices. Immediately, you'd have some enterprise value there. I think what we would have to do is set up some overarching RIA and have like one chief compliance officer. But really my goal there is to provide some enterprise value for your firm. Like, if you were to try to sell your firm, like just on the open market, it's, maybe 2x revenue. But if you kind of have this, ready, set, or built-in buyers, it could be as much as three times revenue. We could potentially share some resources, like maybe if I hire this tax person and they have capacity, you could use that person. And, maybe like have a study group. And since I'm still like not exactly sure how this would work out, like from a legal and, compliance standpoint. But if I'm kind of like kicking around this idea, and I think it has to be people that are like-minded from a financial planning perspective, and then also from a investment and fee schedule. So, some of my initial ideas was like, if I'm going to be kind of like the ringleader or leading this charge, I wanted to kind of have firms that are similar to mine. So, you must be I was thinking about creating some criteria to be part of this collective. So like you must be like fee only. I don't really like charging AUM. So I think I was going to make that a barrier. Like, you can't charge AUM, or it can't be your primary fee model. You must be committed to life planning to help match, the emotional with the mathematical. Like, you don't have to call yourself a life coach or a life planner, but like, kind of incorporate that. You must be committed to looking or to provide forward-looking tax advice. I want people that are going to offer like a wealth builder package or something similar. So that way we're serving a wider audience and just like not like the high net worth. And then I really want to help provide a pathway into the profession. I had a hard time getting into the profession. So if someone's going to join this collective, they have to be committed to hiring a junior planner or a paraplanner, and just to kind of help cultivate and develop the next generation of planners. So those are kind of like the criteria. So, if people are interested in exploring this with me, I'd love to talk with you. So, shoot me an email, or we can talk at the XYPN conference.
I love it. And that's what we just continue to see, more and more firms that are evolving and growing and honestly finding their place and finding their spot and what they enjoy doing. You mentioned earlier that you've learned that you actually really enjoy running the business. That was my realization. There was just a day where I was like, I really like running a business a lot more than I like doing financial planning, and that's okay. And so then the business that you build will look different, and it'll have a different structure than if that's not something that you necessarily enjoy doing. And again, there's no right answer. There's no you should do it this way, you should do it that way. The only should is you should do it the way you want and the way that supports you and your lifestyle. So for anybody who has a similar model and is interested in doing something like that, reach out to Shawn. I'd love to. I will stay in touch on those conversations just to see how it's going. Switching gears just a little bit, because you mentioned this and I definitely want to.
And then like the third idea that I had is it's similar to what Amy Irvine's doing, or maybe it's just replicating what she's doing. She's kind of a landing place for people that maybe started their firm, but didn't necessarily want to be a firm owner. So it's a really interesting model where you can kind of be under her RIA. You can be kind of like a paraplanner, client service associate, and kind of she'll pay you an hourly rate. And then if you bring on clients, you'll share revenue, and she can kind of help mentor you and shadow you in meetings and do like one-on-one coaching every other week. And if she gives you a client, like she hands you a client to work with, like she keeps a little bit more of the revenue. So kind of just providing additional ways to kind of, because like I feel like I've got these really good workflows and templates, and like, I just need, I could just like kind of use that to kind of help younger advisors. Because like I posted this job in Simply Paraplanner. There's 1,200 people that are part of that network, and there's only like 4 job postings. So there's like so many people that are hungry to get in, and I kind of want to encourage people to kind of almost like groom the next generation of planners is like kind of, it's like our duty to pay it forward to the profession and help make because like I feel like I guess I get on my soapbox here, but like I feel like our industry kind of wears a black hat. I don't think people kind of trust us when you say you're a financial planner. They're like, oh great, you're going to sell me some insurance. So like the more that we can like show what real financial planning is, like the better. It was Dick Wagner said, like the best way to help make the profession a profession is to do a good job, one financial plan at a time. And so that's kind of where I've kind of hung my hat of like, okay, we're going to just do great service, one client at a time. But I'd love to scale that out.
Yeah, again, I love it. I anything that brings more advisors into this industry and gives them the support that they need, because starting a business is not for everybody, and that's okay. I'm not an advocate for everyone should go start their own firm. I think some folks are really better suited for big firms and being part of that. Some are suited to be employees at smaller firms. Some are suited to be the solos and or a business owner of a big firm. Whatever, don't shit on yourself. Go find the job, go find the opportunity, and do the things that you feel like are going to make the most sense for you. And it's just exciting to see more opportunities, because historically it was, if you wanted to work with younger clients, you just had to go launch your own firm. There weren't firms doing this work and providing that opportunity. Now we have almost 1,000 firms at XY that are doing this, and many of them in the next year or two are going to be hiring many times their first or second employee. And so there are going to be more opportunities that are coming. And it's going to be really exciting to see. So switching gears sort of on our last topic, you mentioned that you've been really honing in around your service model and making it, really plug and play for new advisors that are coming into the business, and for when you hired Liz and that sort of thing. So can you just talk about your service model and the service calendar that you have, and how, sort of weird that has evolved to at this point, and what you're finding really works from how often you're meeting with clients, what you're covering in those meetings, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So yeah, let's try to post this on the show notes, but I've got a really good visual of like what happens over the first 3 meetings. And so I'll walk you through it like I would a prospect. So if you were to become a client today, we set up your first meeting. The first meeting is 90 minutes. We do a values card deck together, a really good way for us to understand what's most important to you about money. And we provide our financial planning recommendations that aligns your finances with your values. We'll look at your balance sheet. We also look at your insurance in that first meeting, because I just want to make sure there's no fires that we need to put out, or you're not exposed to anything that's really risky. We look at your credit score. I feel like that's foundational if you're going to apply for a mortgage or refinance your loans or anything like that. The next meeting is 3 to 4 weeks after that. We do a 1-page financial plan. And this has kind of evolved over time to like have like, it was a longer 1-page financial plan, and we still kind of do that. But now I've integrated Carl Richards' 1-page financial plan, where you just have a family mission statement and then your top 2 or 3 bullet points. The second meeting is really about your cash flow and understanding where your money's going. I like to call it a spending plan versus a budget, because I just feel like a budget is kind of restrictive. We look at your emergency fund. We do your investment review, make sure you're in low-cost diversified funds. The third meeting, so each meeting has a different name. I think that helps as well. The first meeting, we call it ICM, Initial Client Meeting. Second meeting is the Plan Design Meeting. Third meeting is the Plan Delivery Meeting. So if you're following the sequence, it's like kind of like the third meeting is about goal setting. And we review your estate plan. We also do a financial independence projection in that meeting. And then we create a 12-month financial roadmap. And what that 12-month financial roadmap is that's the client service calendar, which is a different visual. So we do these 3 onboarding meetings. And then from there, I say we meet every 6 months for a progress meeting. And then if something comes up, a life event comes up, we can always meet sooner. So I call it a 4-2 model. So every quarter we're touching base. And usually what that looks like is we're looking at their open enrollment in the fall, we're doing their taxes in the spring, but every quarter we're touching base. But twice a year we get together for usually a 60 or 90-minute meeting. And then they have access, unlimited email, phone support, that type of access.
So you are meeting with your clients quarterly at this point.
So we touch base quarterly. I don't think it's sustainable to meet with each client quarterly, but every 6 months. So in my business model, we have a client meeting every 6 months. I feel like I can only handle 60 to 70 clients. That's why it's important for Liz to start being the lead planner. So she's like the lead on 15. So I'm the lead on like 60. Yeah. So it's every 6 months we get together for a progress meeting.
Okay. Got it.
And then my client service calendar, we have the same agenda for every client, and we break it up into 6-month windows. So every 2 years, we cover every piece of the financial planning process, but you don't need to review someone's estate plan every single 6 months. You don't need to review someone's insurance every 6 months. So those items we kind of we review on a biannual basis. And then some things we do want to meet or review every single meeting, like their balance sheet, checking their net worth. To do our fiduciary obligation for investments, we review that once a year. And it just helps us streamline all of our meetings too. So that way, when Liz is prepping for meetings, she's like, okay, I'm going to use this template, slides. I'm going to send them this agenda. And then we also send out a pre-meeting survey saying, this is our proposed agenda. Please fill out this survey. Let us know if there's anything else you want to talk about. When I first did was in year one, I didn't really have a client service calendar. So it was kind of like Groundhog's Day every 6 months. We were kind of going over the same things. But this, having like it built out for 2 years, really kind of gave me peace of mind. And so now we're actually kind of going back to the beginning of year one, just kind of where I'm at in my business cycle. But I'm always trying to keep it fresh and new. So this is a shout out to Mary Beth Storjahan. Like I incorporated a reverse bucket list for all of my clients. So a lot of times we're so focused on what do we want to accomplish in the future, we don't take time to be grateful for what we've already accomplished. And that just kind of contributes to your overall life satisfaction. So we're doing that this 6 months. And then next 6 months, I'm going to the Kinder training at XYPN Live. So for the next 6 months, we're probably going to do the 3 questions, So it's constantly kind of keeping things, evolving with my firm. So it doesn't get stale for my clients.
Yeah, and just continuing to find ways to show that value over time, because we know the service that we're providing is infinitely more valuable than the fee that we're charging. It can be a challenge sometimes to articulate to the client. And I love the annual service calendar. Like I said, this is something we're working on for members to help them get established earlier on and be able to provide some templates and sort of a baseline to work from so people aren't all creating it from scratch. Because it does get you into a rhythm where, Kitsis likes to say in one of his presentations, historically we've had a meeting to find out if we needed a meeting with our clients. And it's sort of like, hey, what's up? Let's find out if we actually need to be here today. And that's not a good use of time. We work with busy young professionals. They are strapped for time. And, we want to make the best use of the time that we do have and also be efficient from our perspective. So, being sure that we're covering the right topics and we're checking in and all of that really just allows us to serve more clients and serve them better and also protect their time as well as ours. So I think it's an awesome model.
I like saying that we co-create the agenda with our clients and we co-create the financial plan. So it gives them, some agency and empowers them as well. So I think sending out a pre-meeting survey and the agenda is a best practice.
So we're running up on time now, but I do want to cover one last thing. And that is, as you look back over your first 3 years in business, what would be 1 to 2 things that you feel like are highlights, things that you've really done well, that you want to be sure other advisors know about, maybe can mimic and really copy your success there? And maybe 1 to 2 failures that you've had that you feel like listeners might be able to learn from and be able to avoid making some of the same mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, so we talked about a few of the wins. When I was about a year in, I hired my own financial planner. I reached out to Sophia Berra to do a financial plan for me and my wife. And one, it was a great learning opportunity for me to see, how she does her plans. My wife and I, we kind of got the alignment on our goals. She gave me some good things to think about in terms of long-term disability. And then it was also kind of gave me some validation about like kind of what I'm doing for my clients. Like, because that was kind of eating at me is like, is what I'm doing enough, for my clients, and kind of seeing someone that's a little bit ahead of you and kind of what they do. I think it's great to learn from a business standpoint and then also for your own personal finances. I'd recommend that for anyone. I don't really have like a ton of, I mean, I kind of mentioned the clients leaving and Jeff leaving. I think it's okay to treat your business like a test laboratory and like your clients as a test laboratory, like try out different questions, try out different visuals. For me, I went from, this complexity-based plan fee to, I went to net worth and income. I even tried an AUM model to see if I could like that, where if someone invested over 300,000, they don't have to pay the monthly fee. That didn't last very long for me. So I think kind of the takeaway there is come up with a fee structure that you feel good about selling and providing, and know that it's a good, that it's valuable to your clients, and you'll be able to sell that like all day when you truly believe in it. So that's kind of part of the reason I'm thinking about maybe going back to the upfront and ongoing fee instead of this flat retainer. So yeah, those would be my pieces of advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that and for taking the time to come back on the show for this sort of 3-year recap and be able to hear how things are going. I'm super excited to hear that things are going as well as as they are. And it sounds like you're focused on building the business the way that you want to build it, which I think is so encouraging for advisors to see, is that you really do, you're through that initial, oh crap, what did I do phase? And now on to the, okay, what am I building? What do I want out of life? And what's the impact that I want to have? And what's the right business structure and model to be able to support my great life and the impact that I want to have on the world? So I commend you for doing that and getting the business to this point. And I can't wait to see the next couple of years of success. So thanks again, Shawn.
Awesome. I thought you were going to ask me the final question again. I already prepared something for that.
You already prepared something? I almost never, I usually don't ask that, but since you have something prepped, we'll ask, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Well, I kind of just did it for the last 2 years, like kind of what I would tell someone kind of in my stage. So, there's that visual of the two circles where it's like, okay, this is your comfort zone and it's a small circle. And then there's another circle that's not connected. And that's like where the magic happens. I don't think it's a Carl Richards sketch, but it could be, it looks like it. And that's really where I've made the big leaps with my business. It's doing those uncomfortable things that you should be doing, whether it's raising fees for existing clients, hiring your first team member. I shifted all my clients to pay using ACH instead of credit cards. All these kind of uncomfortable things. That's where you really make the big leaps with your practice. And I encourage you to, not be foolish, but just take like those calculated risks, and that's where you'll really grow.
I love it. Well, thank you for that. I always love getting that advice. So thank you again, Shawn. I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
XYPN Live is a financial planning conference unlike any other in the industry. At XYPN Live, you'll learn real strategies for building your firm, whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned firm owner. Or maybe you just want to earn some CE credits, connect with other advisors, or be part of the real financial planning movement. XYPN Live offers all of that and so much more. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/XYPN Live Radio to get your pass today. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN Radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes with myself and Kitsis, and to finally find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.